And we are live. That was quick.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American
Why
Green.
relate to a chip capacity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
Gang's all here again. Did that intro with my new soundboard,
Oh,
which is just a program I downloaded for $3. But my my iPad Generation 1 will no longer communicate with my Mac. It has been moved into obsolescence after 9.5 years. So
It's actually pretty good for an Apple device, to be honest.
yeah, this computer is like 6 years old and it still does everything. So, but yeah, the latest update, it won't. I mean, there's a way I could, but it's like, or I can download a simple program and do it that way. So,
Yeah.
there's a company. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's the company's name is El Gato, which is Spanish for the cat.
okay. I think I've actually heard of them, but go ahead.
Yeah, because I have their capture device for video games, so I can plug my PS4 or anything and play it through my computer. And so they make other like streaming stuff, and they have a thing called a Stream Deck, where it's just a thing with a bunch of buttons on it, and each button has like a little screen, and you can like change it to whatever. And so basically, you can have it, whatever button you hit, it'll do a thing. Like you can do a scene transition, or it'll make a sound, or whatever you want to do. But I was considering getting one of those, but then I was like, I'm never going to use it, so I just don't. They have one that's like a 6-button one, and they have one that's like a 12-button one, and they have one that's like, like 30 buttons, and that one's like $600 or some shit.
Yeah, we're not known for like wacky transitions on this show.
I'm guessing you're talking more like Bob and Tom shit, where they just have like weird fucking segues and sounds and comedy bits that go into other things they're talking about.
Well, yeah, you can use it like a soundboard if you wanted to, but also you can have it, like I said, you can do scene transitions in OBS. Because like the Giant Bomb guys use it a lot because they have different streams where they have like, you'll have like a video screen border, and then they'll have like all the individual webcams kind of like on like kind of doing an L border around the video game footage, and like they can just hit a button and it'll change that, and they can hit a button and they can go to those, like it's just all video game footage, or they can have it go back to all their videos on screen with it at the same time, or they can just go to an individual webcam if they want to. You can do whatever you want pretty much. So.
That's not too bad.
But I find it too expensive for something I'm probably never going to use effectively enough. So.
Yeah. Yeah, my limit is, a new soundboard every couple years, maybe a new digital recorder sometime, but not as long as this stuff works.
Although I did see on one podcast that they're doing a video version of it, and it was before, and they did kind of a pre-stream just to make sure like everything's working, so like the subscribers can jump in ahead of time. And this guy fucked up his blue microphone.
Yeah.
Like he just like grabbed on the cord on the top, and he just like fucked up the micro USB connection. Like he just ripped it off.
Wow.
And then, but like, because he works for CNET, so he just like, and the blue microphones just sent him a microphone, so he had just one lying around, and he hooked that one up, and it was a new one. It was like the Blue Yeti XL or something like that. That one looks really cool. because it has like just this big button on the front that lights up, so it shows your like your sound wave directly on the microphone.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good to have.
Because like you can plug directly into the microphone to like hear yourself and how everything sounds, but I forget like why I don't do that. It's because it doesn't work with the shit with my computer. Because then you're just everything's going from the microphone, so then you don't hear the things on the computer.
Oh yeah.
It's probably a way to fix that, but yeah, whatever. Just plug it
Yeah,
into the computer.
Offboard sound card fixes all that. That's its own.
Not
interesting-
mine.
Oh well, yeah, maybe.
This thing shit the bed for some reason.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not even old, is it?
Huh?
How old is that?
Oh, this thing's super old. This thing's like
Oh,
12 years old. Yeah, like this company like doesn't even exist anymore.
Okay.
But like, I had a bunch. It has XLR inputs and it has a bunch of like quarter inch inputs for like various like you can put instruments and stuff in here. And so I had that hooked up the other day to try to like to put the keyboard and the guitar through the computer, and it was working for like a moment, and then just everything got real garbled and fucking weird sounding. So I was like, so it's probably some weird connection or something. But I tried to look up equivalent things, and like it doesn't exist anymore. So if I want to get that to happen, I just have to buy a mixing board, which I don't feel like doing right now. So
Yeah, they're nice, but they're they get used for one thing and then that's it.
yeah.
That's my problem. So. But as long as they work, and in whatever weird way I have it hooked up. Like my friend, the actual sound engineer, comes over here like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know. There's stuff I saw." He's like, "That is a super redundant system." He goes, "That'll never fail," but it's like, that's a lot of excess stuff. I said, "Yeah, I know." That's me.
I guess I have another F1 update because we didn't do it last week.
Oh.
Yeah, with the election and all.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the election's been finalized.
Yeah, I think. Oh, hold on. There's a message from the White House. It's coming in now. I don't know what that means. It's just the White House live feed.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna play Nixon's "It's a Great Sadness" or whatever.
That's available too, but we'll save that.
Oh yeah, well I watched a video that kind of like calmed me about like all the lawsuits that the Trump administration is putting up, and then the guy basically broke down everything, how most of them are completely frivolous.
Yeah.
Or the one funny one where like the guy he makes some statement that like the judge like asked him directly. It's like, well, how many people were in the room during the counting? And then like he said like a non-zero amount of people, and he's like, look, I'm gonna fucking ask you again. You're talking to a judge. It'd be great not to lie, or you're gonna lose your license. And then the guy basically capitulated and said, yeah, like it was up the board.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the because Friday was a really busy day for me, so I didn't get to watch much. But some of the recaps I heard is like all the big law firms that they gave money to represent them, they all bailed on them. Like, yeah, this isn't happening. We're not gonna, we have other clients, and we're not gonna just piss all these judges off. So the next time we come in front of them, we're gonna get butt fucked. So we're just, I don't know if that was their reasoning, but yeah, these are all. Anyway, what'd your guys say? Because I haven't, I don't really. I know these are getting shot down everywhere, but I don't know the reasons why.
Oh, there's just no evidence or merit to them.
Yeah. So you have to have evidence of this fraud you're claiming, which you don't have. Even the Republican states are like, there's no fraud here.
I was even stuff where like they're saying like their poll watchers weren't allowed to watch them, or they didn't have, they heard them, they saw them talking, but they didn't have audio of what they were saying. But then there's shit like, well, here's a webcam live feed of all the people counting the thing. You can. It was just live streamed to the internet. You can watch it all day long if you want to. It's like shit like that. It's like you have all the tools available to you. So this is just a lot of
Not a non. Well, let me tell you something I do know, because it's always funny how this changes. Because I remember we had the 2000 election fiasco, which came down to the Supreme Court deciding that was the dented chads. That was Bush v. Gore. We all know where that went. And then in 2004, we had Bush v. Kerry, and that's when everyone said the Diebold AccuVote systems could be easily hacked. Now, this was all the Democrats saying this, and Frontline made a serious documentary tonight on Frontline. Our voting systems are easily purged, and now they're saying Dominion voting systems. The Republicans are saying they're switching all the votes and stuff. Guess what company that is?
Is it just Diebold again?
Diebold again. It was acquired by AccuVote. Was acquired by Diebold. Diebold was acquired by Dominion Voting Systems. It's the same bad guys, the same boogeymen. It's just different cast of characters now. So everyone hates these things when it doesn't go their way. But I will say, like the Trump v. Gore, and I don't remember how much.
I mean, Bush v. Gore.
Bush v. Gore. And then I don't know if Kerry didn't really do much. I know they said, well, there might be some irregularities, but whatever, I concede. They weren't doing the spurious, crazy shit that Trump's doing, where Pompeo's on TV. It's like, we're ready for the next Trump term. And it's like,
yeah, we're going to transition to a second Trump administration. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, man. He just has you right there by the short hairs, doesn't he? Just die for this man. But yeah, but anyway, it's funny. It's like you just do that simple internet search and you find out, oh, this is the same voting systems. I don't know if there's stuff wrong with them or not at this point. I'm just like, these are the same boogeyman every time. Just whoever doesn't win is that they're the bad guy. But when it happens to Democrats, like I said, they'll do like documentaries and everyone will sound serious. And when it happens to Republicans, it's a clown show. Going into court with it's so whatever. I'm this sounds like
except for 2000, but every time the Democrats have done this stuff, it's always like after a concession. And then it's like, well, we just want the voting to because this happens after every election. It's like, here's some things that we want to fix. They bring it up to lawmakers, and maybe they adjust things to do it better. But this is just clearly like, I don't know, it just seems more like, bold's not the right answer, but it just kind of,
it's just conspiracy theory
shit. They're not seeking to make the electoral system a better process. They just want to like see if they can like somehow win on a technicality.
Yeah And a lot of it's based on conspiracy theories and things that provably did not happen either. It's, and if there is any shadow of doubt there, it's like, I haven't seen anything convincing. And trust me, the weight of the media and everything else in this country is not for it. I'm surprised we haven't brought the Russians up again. Like, well, the Russians might have done something. It's like, yeah, let's bring them back into it. Why not?
Or how incompetent and scattered the Democratic Party is, that they think they can just come together to rig elections really well. Like, that's the one thing they can do well.
Yeah, like if they were going to swing an election, again, like we said last week, would they lose state governorships, Senate seats, and House seats, but get their guy in barely? It's like, no, they would go for the the home run. They would just sweep the field. It's like 100 more people voted for Biden than live in the United States. It's, that's there's no subtlety to this. So, and again, it's not a clear win for anyone. There's no mandate here. So, whatever. I mean, it's you knew it was going to be something dumb, and it, of course, as promised, delivered. It's not something I find the slightest bit compelling.
Well, then there's like the thing I think you said last week, where it's like you don't need to worry about these lawsuits and stuff because, like, Trump is so like lazy and bored that like he'll just like whatever jingling keys or the next thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Like the commentator said, really, this is all about figuring out how to give Trump his binky, so he'll accept that he lost. And whatever you gotta, whoever has to prostrate before him, so his ego is salved, then we can move on, I guess.
yeah. I mean, this is kind of just like let's spend tens of millions of dollars so Trump can have even more attention in the last days of his presidency.
Well, like I said, he could become like an Anna Pope, just like a schism Pope. He'll take his followers and they can move to Texas and pretend he's president and live in that whole pretend architecture if they want to.
Well, my dad had a nice theory today that, I guess by nice I mean that bullshit, fucking insane theory, but saying that all the voting machines in the U.S. were replaced with new software 2 days before the election. That's why Trump lost.
Okay, yeah, that's why.
It was like, yeah, that's a lot of legwork, Dad, and
Because
a lot of people.
states definitely all use the same voting system.
Well, he's background on computers, so I didn't ask him to explain if he meant certain states, like the swing states, or if he meant every state. But I just took him at his word. So, I don't know. It's not something I'm proud of him saying that because I think he's fucking dumb doing it, obviously. But at the same time,
It's hard when it's apparent because like I hear that stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, and I just keep like moving on, like cool, yeah, they did it, whatever. I'm like the bored conspiracy theorist now. It's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, on to the next thing. This is important. What are we gonna do? Vote 4 years. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna vote again in 4 years.
We should look into that. Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you have
go
a
ahead.
background in investigation? No. You just want to imagine things and be angry? Yeah.
Do you understand computer software engineering? Because I don't. I mean, you could tell me anything. I mean, we're still talking to the Voyager probe. I think that's amazing, but I don't understand how it's happening. I just know that they're doing it.
Well, it's in space, so there's nothing for it to oxidize. So as long as it doesn't hit anything, it's good.
Well, yeah, it's just amazing that they're doing it and they're getting system updates from it. Like, this is still working, that's still working. But I don't understand how it happens, but I accept that it's real.
Yeah.
It's like a conspiracy. It hasn't become V'ger yet and coming back to us. Yeah. So we're all set, I guess, or we're not. I don't know.
So yeah, the F1 update. So last week was Imola, which I don't know, wasn't really that exciting of a race because how big the cars are and how kind of narrow the track is. It's a very fast track, but there wasn't really a lot of opportunities for passing.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of like track position kind of ended up giving wherever you started on the day is kind of where you ended up. Although Daniel Kvyat had a pretty good day because it looks like he's going to get kicked out of AlphaTauri, I think he finished fourth, and he had like a really good pass during the race that was pretty exciting. He's like, Jesus, how the fuck did he figure that out? Which is I think he probably had newer tires or something, so that's how you figured that out.
Oh, okay.
Hamilton won once again. It was the same podium it always is. And then Mercedes have secured their 7th championship in a row.
Okay.
So
That makes it exciting for everyone.
This is mathematically impossible for any other team to win the championship. And this week, Lewis Hamilton could possibly wrap up the championship. So they're at Turkey this week, and much like Portugal, they just repaved the track, so it's kind of slippery.
Okay.
But also, it rained during qualifying, and so together with the rain and the new track being laid down, it was just a skating rink for the fucking cars.
Must be terrifying.
Oh yeah, like when you see videos of it, the cars look like they're going so slow, even though they're probably going like 120 miles an hour on like wet pavement. Because how the camera shots are set up, they're set up for the cars going faster, so it just makes them look like they're going really slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Lance Stroll got pole position from Racing Point. Good old Daddy's Cash got a pole position, which is very surprising because he has absolutely sucked for the last 5 races.
Yeah.
Like he's either wrecked or didn't finish in the top 10. He got COVID-19, so yeah, it's been pretty bad recently. But yeah, he got pole position. Max Verstappen got second. Sergio Perez, another Racing Point, got third. Or P3, I guess you say. This because it's not a result; it's just the starting grid. And then 4, Alex Albon. And then I think 5th is Daniel Ricciardo. And then I believe 6th is Lewis Hamilton.
What's been his farthest pole back to finish first?
God, I don't know. Because this year, every qualifying has been Mercedes 1-2 for every race this year.
Okay.
So this is the first time it hasn't been this year.
So he's not in prime position, and this is a hard to pass course.
I actually don't know about how hard it is to pass here, but if it rains tomorrow, it's gonna be bad. But if it doesn't rain tomorrow, then he'll probably just eat up the field. He'll probably have no problem with it.
Yeah. Well, he's like the Michael Jordan of Formula One now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, yeah, there's always the crazy shit where it's like, my tires are dead, and then he goes and does the fastest lap of the day.
Yeah.
On bald tires. Actually, bald tires isn't really the right term for F1, but
Yeah.
it'd be like
great traction tires.
yeah. But yeah, it looked like the Red Bulls were pretty good in the rain, but they had a weird thing because they have 2 tires that they run in rain. There's the wet tires that kind of look like ATV tires, and then there's the intermediate tires, which are kind of like your road car tires, where they have like a little oval in it so that it can kick the water away from the tire.
Got like rain channels in it. Okay.
Yeah. The Racing Point teams, like when they put on the intermediates for qualifying, they did very well, and that's why they got a pole position. But like when the Red Bulls did that, like their car didn't didn't work as well as they did on the wet tires.
Oh,
So-
okay.
But yeah, it's an interesting grid for this race, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. So
Yeah. Wait and see.
it's kind of just weird now because it's like there's no reason for even the championships are pretty much wrapped up, so you kind of just have to like look at the edges for interesting things, like the fight in the constructors championship. The fight for third place is very close. Like I think there's basically like in one race, like there could be four different teams could switch to third place, depending on how the points shake up. And that stuff is really fucking important because you're talking about like the difference between like coming in 5th and coming in 3rd is like $100 million or some shit like that.
Oh, okay.
Because like essentially the team, like whatever place the team itself comes in, you get money, you get prize money for it. Which I think if you come in first place, you get like $200 million or something like that. Which like,
Too bad.
which for like teams like Racing Point, it's like that would be like, hey, we're making money. For teams like Mercedes, like they're spending like $405 million a year, so it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. So they're just like got plenty of money here.
Yeah, they're it's like, oh, well, I guess we didn't throw away as much money this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have for F1 right now.
Oh, okay. I was looking up some stuff. Can see who was in the thing.
Oh, who's what thing?
The F1 bracket.
Oh. I think it's Mercedes, Red Bull are clearly ahead in the Constructors Championship, and then third place right now is Renault, which has had a pretty good season of late. They've had two. Daniel Ricciardo got another podium.
Okay.
We'll see if Cyril Abiteboul has to get a second tattoo or not. And McLaren's had they started off really hot, but they've kind of fell back at the second half of the season, which is kind of weird because they're really fast in the start of the season, but now their car is slipping behind. It was also weird that they were faster than Renault's, even though Renault makes their engine. So now it's kind of flipped. Now the Renault team is doing better than the McLaren team, and then Racing Point's kind of in the mix there. And then I don't know who. Yeah, it's Renault, Racing Point, and McLaren are kind of up there, and then Ferrari is behind them. I think they're 5th or 6th in the Constructors Championship, which is terrible for them, but they've just had the worst car this year. They've actually had some pretty good results as of late, or at least fuck, I forget. Charles Leclerc has, because pretty much they're building that car around him. So Sebastian Vettel's been kind of, I think he came in 10th a couple of races ago, so that was the best he's done in a while. I think Nico Hulkenberg has more points than Sebastian Vettel this year.
Oh, okay.
Andrew, if you don't know, Nico Hulkenberg has, whenever a driver at Racing Point gets COVID, he comes in and does the race.
Oh, no, I think I remembered his name from last time. I wasn't exactly sure since I'm not obviously researching F1 drivers.
He's that guy who's never gotten a podium.
Did he do really well the last time he filled in for somebody?
What happened last? Because last time he filled in for Lance Stroll, but that one was even crazier because he got into the car as they were qualifying, so he didn't get to practice with the car at all. And then of course he qualified dead last. Because everybody else had 3 practice sessions, and then he comes in and tries to figure out the car during qualifying. But then during the race he came all the way from last place to 8th place and got some points. So he did his job. So.
Well, that's good.
But unfortunately, I don't think there's a seat for him next year, which is sad. But
Yeah.
Well, it's competitive, and everybody needs to be the younger driver and everything. So.
Well, yeah, Haas is firing both their drivers because they're too expensive, and they're hiring 2 rookies.
Oh, so that's official now?
No, not yet, but that's kind of the plan right now. Because also, I remember I said that the rumors Sergio Perez is going to go to Red Bull, but so that's been kind of unease right now. So Sergio Perez might not might not drive next year, even though he's a good driver and he comes with $40 million of sponsorship.
Yeah.
You're basically making money hiring him. What's the? Oh yeah, no, he's basically he's had more points scoring races. The only person that's scored more points in more races is Lewis Hamilton. No, I mean consecutively. He doesn't have as many points as Lewis Hamilton or even Max Verstappen, but every time he has more points finishes than everybody else.
Oh, okay.
Except for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then Max Verstappen, every time he finishes a race, he's on the podium, but he doesn't finish every race. So.
Yeah, so it's hit or miss. He might be here.
Well, last week it was at Imola was kind of weird, where he was doing really good, he like Bottas like took the lead from Lewis Hamilton, and then Kevin Magnussen and Sebastian Vettel got like tangled up, and so like one of like the side wing plates on the front of the wing got knocked off, and when Bottas came back around for the second lap, like his car just like sucked that shit into his car,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and it was just like stuck to his car, and like I'm not sure what it means. He said he lost 50 points of downforce with the car.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that's significant. I don't know what points of downforce equates to. I'm just like, I guess that's a lot. Like, that's like half of 100, right? But I have no idea what. But anyways, so that kind of like ruined his whole race. And Max Verstappen ended up getting by him at some point. Lewis Hamilton got by him, and then Max Verstappen got by him. But then the back rear tire of Max Verstappen's car just blew up suddenly, and then he was out of the race. Yeah, because he went right into a gravel pit. So like 3 tires in a gravel pit, your race is done. Because I've seen him, I've seen him blow up his tire on like the second lap of a race. Goes into the pit with 3 tires, and then he finished the lap in second place, or finished the race in second.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
F1.
Yep, that's your F1 update. Only 4 races left? 4 races?
Oh, really? That's all. Okay, I thought it was more than that.
And let's see, we got.
Oh yeah, for next year they added Saudi Arabia to their racing. They're gonna have
So
races
tomorrow's Turkey, then you got Bahrain,
twice.
then you got Bahrain 2, then you have Abu Dhabi.
Oh, yeah. So 3 races left. So.
Yep.
Well, I guess 4 technically if you count tomorrow. So.
Yeah. Which is running, probably right now.
I think in 4 hours.
Yeah, a few hours, yeah. I don't know, time shifts around on this podcast.
It does? Shit.
Well, we read or listened to a book this week,
Yep.
and there's probably a lot to cover here. I don't know. I enjoyed the book. It's Oliver Stone's Chasing the Light. It's basically about everything from
birth to the release of Platoon.
yeah, that was
And like pre-production on Wall Street, but he doesn't necessarily get into Wall Street that much. So.
yeah. I like how all the different people that were chosen for his movies and interviewed and then backed out, because Wall Street was going to be like I had never heard that it was going to be Tom Cruise and
Warren Beatty.
which would have been a cool
Yeah.
different Wall Street, I think. But it worked out. But yeah, so this was. Now, where'd you hear about this book? Was this on from when he was on Rogan?
No, I was listening to the Action Boys, and they were talking about it.
Oh, okay.
They listen to a lot of Hollywood books on tapes and stuff, and so that's the latest one they were talking about. It's also that and like the guy who wrote Showgirls and like what's his name? Joe Esterhaus, I think that's his name. Like
Okay.
he has like a bunch of like autobiographies that are apparently just crazy Hollywood stories.
Okay.
So they bring up his stuff a lot too. Yeah, they always talk about the. I think it's from one of his books, or it might be Sylvester Stallone's. But it was like something where it's like Joe Esterhaus was like talking to Sylvester Stallone's like, man, what happened to you? You used to be a good writer. It's like, I don't know. And then he goes, it's probably all the pussy. Like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were talking about it, and when they said that he read it, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll listen to Oliver Stone talk about his life for 12 hours.
Yeah, he's an interesting narrator.
And like I forget how old he is. Like for being 76, he doesn't necessarily sound it or necessarily look it.
No, and he's we're pretty sharp. his narrative voice in this is there's so much in here to talk about. We'll never cover it all. I'm just gonna go over the highlights of.
But I mean, like, you know, we watched like Oliver Stone's America, and he narrates that, and that's like 8 hours of Oliver Stone narration. So this isn't like that different. So.
No. Yeah, this was like. See what? Well, I never really. I never thought of him. I knew he wrote a lot of scripts, but I didn't realize he was like originally was a writer.
Yeah.
And wanted to just write books, and then that wasn't working out. And then he wanted to. Then he wrote. He won an Oscar at a very young age for Midnight Express, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, but yeah, he wasn't really young, but it was like he was new to the. I mean, it was like his second script or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, not for him personally, but like that was like his second script he sold or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was always talking about how like he was always like the old person in something.
Yeah.
Because like I actually thought he graduated from Yale, but no, he like dropped out twice from Yale, and then he eventually went back to NYU grad school. And it's just funny that like Martin Scorsese is his teacher.
My professor at film school, Martin Scorsese.
Because you know what,
a real lunatic back then.
well, everybody was that way. Oliver Stone talks about it. Just everyone's on drugs, and it's cool and okay. But yeah, the Action Boys always got hung up on the way he talks about his mom, because he's always like, there's always like things where he's like, me and my sexy mommy.
Yeah. My French mother, very sensual woman. I think I fell in love with her. Like he throws lines like it's like, oh, where's this going? Okay, no, we're not.
I think the reason he wrote it like that is I think he wrote about his mother the way he imagined if she was going to write about herself.
Okay.
So he kind of like mythologizes his mother on her behalf.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, it was like, oh, she was French, and then she took care of me, and then but he makes her like, she's like this, like, woman of great taste that like just goes around the world and gathers weird people together and just throws parties and stuff. He makes her seem, much more vivacious and I can't think of the word. What's irascible mean?
I don't know, but yeah, it's irascible is like it's like a personality, like a how would you say an irascible person? Someone you really can't get one over on, kind of like nobody's fool type person. But yeah, he's definitely someone who had some issues with his dad.
Well, it's like he also like talks about him being a child of divorce, which I think that's why like a lot of the like he has to consider his mom like, what's the sexual value of my mom, because it's like if your mom is like looking for a new husband, like, and you're the kid in the situation, you kind of have to like evaluate those things, which is probably why he has the that terminology on board.
Yeah. It's a little jarring to hear it. It took me a while to finish this, not because I didn't like it, but because I didn't really have a lot of that like time to just sit around and listen continuously to it. But yeah, in the end, it was well done. It was worth it. I mean, he's an interesting guy who does interesting things. So
well, I thought
learned a lot of movies that I didn't know.
The thing I thought was crazy is he goes to Vietnam to be an English teacher before he volunteers for the draft in the army.
Yeah. It's like he's already been there once and he goes back.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about. I knew he was in the army in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I knew he was a Vietnam veteran. I didn't know anything about what his experiences were. And then he talks about it and it's like, oh, that's horrifying. Okay.
And he didn't enlist. He volunteered for the draft, because then like if you get drafted, you're just immediately going into the infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't get drafted to be like like a
tactical support people or something.
Yeah. Which is like what some people, if they're young enough and like war is like on the horizon, they'll enlist to make sure that they get like in the rear jobs instead of getting, because if you get drafted, you're going to the infantry.
Yeah, they're just handing you a rifle and pointing.
But because he volunteered for the draft, I guess it was just a 2-year commitment, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I actually don't know how long. I don't know how long he spent in the army, but it was shorter than usual.
I think it's because he got wounded.
Yeah, he got wounded several times. Got a Bronze Star
Yeah.
for throwing a grenade into a pit.
And killing like 5 people. And he's
Yeah.
like, I couldn't believe how accurately I threw it. And then it worked after it was done. Yeah, they were dead. And it's like kind of matter of fact, but also sad.
Yeah, but he's also like a relief in some way because of how they like how many times they like fire at things and blow things up and then just never see any result. So he's like, "Oh, I killed somebody and here's the results." Like that's gratifying. It's like kind of even he's like surprised by it in a way where it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect to have this feeling.
Yeah, just kind of.
But I guess I was in a firefight, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, it's like he was talking a lot about during his war experiences about how much was friendly fire.
Yeah.
It was like when they would fire the beehive rounds into the backs of their own people and stuff because they were shooting in the where they shouldn't have been or whatever. It's like, well, that's horrifying.
Or some master sergeant had to get some like time like in the field.
Well,
And then like he gets over anxious and throws a grenade near his foxhole and fucking knocks him unconscious with the concussion because it didn't go in his foxhole, but it blew up near it and so knocked him unconscious.
yeah, that'll ring your bell.
And then after that, how he's just kind of like this like aimless druggie for a
Yeah,
lot of it, and then he like hides the fact that he's a veteran, like he doesn't want people to know.
yeah,
Which is interesting because also like when he makes these war movies and people try to doubt that he was a veteran, it's like, well, here's all my experience, and then that just immediately like invalidates their opinion.
yeah. When he did Platoon, someone did some expose where they said there was never an Oliver Stone in the army, and he just responded to him. He's like, yeah, I went in under my middle name.
William Stone.
And then they went and looked and like, oh yeah, there he is. And so that like all dissipated. Well, I can't get him on that. Damn it, he was there.
But yeah,
Which
yeah.
I had no idea what he actually did until this book. I just knew he was a soldier in Vietnam.
Well, yeah, you watch Platoon and you assume that everything that happened in the movie is like something of what he did.
Yeah.
Which is it's somewhat what he did, but it's just more dramatized, I guess.
Well, yeah, because he always has the like I said, this is a guy with issues with his dad, and you've always got like the dark father and the light father, and that was the Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe, or like, and he even says it in the narration at the end of the movie. It's like they'll both be fighting inside me for my soul, and it's like he has all these things he does. He did similar stuff in The Doors, which wasn't talked about here, but it was. You had the good.
Well,
and the
because
bad.
that came after Platoon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, he. What's that?
Sorry. Oh no, I was gonna say in a couple of interviews, when he talked about this book and stuff like that, he was basically saying like he didn't really degrade his father at all, or not degrade, but I guess talk down about his father at all. He was very matter of fact, like, oh yeah, he's an honest man. He did what he had to do. He didn't take shit for it, and I like that about him. He wasn't always right, but he at the end of the day he changed his mind about Vietnam and about hippies, but it was too late or whatever, and that's pretty much what he said about his dad.
Well, yeah, because there's a point in the book he'll be like, I hated my father, and then later on it's like, I loved my father.
Yeah. You had one of those hard ass, dads from that all the fun parents that the baby boomers had that were like, either super conservative or just hard people.
Yeah.
That fought in World War II and grew up during the Depression, and it's like, yeah, they weren't, it's a different childhood experience for those people.
Well, so it's like he said, like he was a Jewish guy from, the New York area, and like he said, he basically married his mom because like she was good stock, not necessarily because he loved her.
Yeah. Well, he was on like Eisenhower's. What was he? He was like a staff officer in World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah, he found this woman in France and married her, and
Yeah, he seemed to be kind of like an admin guy because
Yeah.
I don't know, there was some kind of jealousy because like they both served, but only he saw combat. His dad didn't.
Right. Yeah, because his dad was just this Jewish guy from Brooklyn who just ended up going to, do stuff in World War II. And he's like, I like this French woman. She could bring culture to me. And he was just a stockbroker that, like, he published some newsletter about investing, and he, Oliver Stone kept saying, the newsletter got smaller and smaller, and I knew he was, slowly losing it. And it was kind of
He
sad.
also said like his dad like made millions of dollars, but he still owed the same $100,000 for the rest of his life.
Well, no, he finally paid it off, but it was like a big deal when he finally did. Because remember, his dad would never buy a house or anything. He would always rent stuff, so he could always bail out. It's like, no one has any hold over me. I can just leave. And he said his dad was always leaving something, because he was insecure about debt and things like that.
Also, he felt like Oliver Stone felt like a kind of a weird pressure from his father for not necessarily being successful, because like the other people in his family are like millionaires and like stockbrokers and shit like that. Or
Yeah, like his one cousin's like was the president of Princeton eventually, or something like that. Yeah. It's, what are you doing? I'm still working on my script, and that, like if you say that now, that's kind of code for, oh, he's not doing it. Back then, it was sort of kind of weird and exotic, but still kind of like, oh yeah, so you're not really doing much.
Yeah, he comes back from Vietnam, gets caught for drugs in Mexico on his way back from Vietnam.
Yeah. Yep. And back then, that was like 5 years in prison, unless your dad had money, which he said he did. So.
Yeah, dad gets him out, and then goes to NYU. Somewhere along the lines, makes an independent movie that kind of just goes nowhere. Seizure.
Yeah. Never seen it.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I was going to suggest that we hold off from doing Netflix movies, and maybe we do an Oliver Stone retrospective and watch all of his movies.
Could certainly do that. I have them all.
But I want to ask you guys, where should we start? Should we start at Seizure, The Hand, or Salvador?
Salvador. I've tried to watch The Hand because Michael Caine was in it. I was like, this isn't good.
Okay.
Kind of has a Rosemary's Baby vibe to it, but then it just goes nowhere. And it's kind of weird and disjointed. It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone blended with all the weird horror films of the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Salvador.
Because I think about, there's like a bunch of Oliver Stone movies I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Like there's some stuff I've seen bits and pieces of. Like I've seen bits and pieces of Salvador, but I never like sat down and watched it before. I just like know about it. And then like I've never seen The Doors. I've just seen bits and pieces. I've never like sat down and watched Born on the 4th of July.
Oh, you've never watched that movie?
It's a good movie.
I've just seen it in bits and pieces. Like they used to play it on like USA and in the middle of the day, and I just catch it here and there. I know about these movies. I just never sat down and watched them. Or actually, the one I have no idea. I haven't even seen a frame of it. Is he did another Vietnam movie with Tommy Lee Jones called like Heaven and Earth. Never seen that whatsoever.
Never seen that one either. No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, there's just a lot of his stuff that I really haven't seen. So I was suggesting that we go through and watch all those movies and talk about.
If we got see for director writer, we got Platoon, Wall Street, Talk Radio, Born on the 4th of July, The Doors, JFK, Heaven and Earth, Natural Born Killers, Nixon, and U-Turn. And then Any Given Sunday. I've seen that. I've never seen Alexander. World Trade Center he only directed, so
yeah,
we can do a pass on that. W is okay. And then Snowden is...
I never saw the second Wall Street movie.
Oh, really?
He didn't write it, so...
I mean, I don't know. I think
That doesn't preclude it. I think for the full Oliver Stone experience, writer director is the best way to go. But he can, yeah, he writes some good stuff. Or we could watch any of these. I have access to or own all of these.
But yeah, like he's writing stuff. I like there's stuff like there's a lot of weird stuff, and this like maybe when you're a creative person who has like some success, you just have to build your own narcissism.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like at every moment, like he like talks about like some revolution in like the film industry, and he's like, yeah, I was almost there. I had this script. It was like ready to go. It was gonna be the next Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah.
Like everybody can like talk like that.
Yeah, I can talk about all the awesome things I've never done or followed up on. Yeah, I sound like a genius. Really, I'm like that fat guy in the Twilight Zone who plays the harmonica to kill the aliens because they think he's the smartest man in the world because he's just a liar. He told Henry Ford how to build the Model T. I'm off topic, but yeah.
But yeah, like he gets Midnight Express. He sells that, and then he's like actually successful for a while. Although it's like, yeah, he wins the Oscar, and you think like, oh, he's set for life then, like he's just gonna have a Hollywood. But like, the way he recounts it is like, that didn't necessarily mean anything. That didn't guarantee shit other than like some opportunities, but like the opportunities he got from people that weren't necessarily like savory but that's all Hollywood. But
Yeah.
But Midnight Express is kind of a pretty it seems like what people were upset with a lot of Oliver Stone stuff at the time is just like the violence of his scripts.
Yeah.
And so like people didn't like that, so he didn't necessarily get offers from like Disney or whatever. Like, we want you to do something.
No, Oliver Stone loves violence. I mean, when he talks about writing the script for Scarface, it's like, oh wow, the stuff they planned to do versus what they did do was.
Oh yeah, that's the other fun thing is like when he talks about the scripts he wrote that got made into movies, he talks about them and it sounds like he directed the movie, but he's just the writer. Well, I mean,
and he didn't have anything good to say about any of the directors because the guy who did the Midnight Run was just some cold, aloof Englishman. And the guy who did Scarface, which was
Brian
De
Palma.
Palma, he's like, he's a very distant man. I felt no connection with him, even though he was always kind to me. I felt like he was just waiting for me to leave the room. Or, it was something like that. I don't know if I'm getting that right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like he was talking about like how De Palma, like when they hit the weekends, he would just disappear. Like he didn't want to talk. And like he talked to him later. He's like, "Why'd you do that?" I was like, "I don't want to fucking spend any more time with these people than I have to."
Yeah, I don't want to sit around and do cocaine with you assholes.
And also like you look at a De Palma movie, it's like, yeah, he's kind of all about like the actor isn't like a necessary and vital component in as much as it is their scenery to his tapestry.
Yeah.
So that's what like Oliver Stone kind of like didn't agree with, because all De Palma makes great movies, but also
he makes awesome movies.
He also makes bad movies, but he just seems to not necessarily he's not an actor's director like Martin Scorsese is.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, has De Palma ever like directed Al Pacino in anything?
I don't know. I know him in. Oh, who was it? I know him in Al Pacino and Oliver Stone kind of became friends.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so Oliver Stone wins the Oscar for and the Golden Globe for Midnight Express. Then he's at some point sells the script for Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
I think was it John DeMilius directed that, so he kind of like John DeMilius because he's a crazy right winger guy, and like that way, where, like he's so irresponsible, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, he seems like just a character. It's like, what's he gonna do next?
Like he apparently had a Claymore mine in his office, and like like Oliver Stone walked in, and is like, oh, those things, and then like, haha, I knew you'd done it. It's fucking. John DeMilius, like he did Conan, but he also like he came up with like fucking Dirty Harry and stuff like that. A lot of famous lines in movies comes from John DeMilius, but he kind of seems like a crazy, irresponsible right winger in the film industry.
Yeah, I think he is.
I hear he has a good biography about him too. Yeah, then he sells the screenplay at some point with for Scarface. Oh yeah, and then like somewhere along the line sells the screenplay for 8 Million Ways to Die.
Yeah, I remember.
Like-
I've heard of that movie.
I've seen that's a weird movie.
Yeah, good things.
Oh yeah, he also wrote the was it Year of the Dragon?
Yes.
That Kumio Mickey Rourke movie.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, back to our question. Brian De Palma also directed Al Pacino in Carlito's Way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I knew there was another one, but it was driving me nuts.
So yeah, then so around this point he's they've been trying to get Platoon made for like 5 years, but it's just never going to happen because they think it's too violent.
Yeah, well, that was because there was an era when Hollywood didn't because Born on the 4th of July was also floating around then too.
Yeah.
These people from the major studios were like, no one wants to deal with Vietnam. This is in the 70s. It just ended. It's like, yeah, there's no market for this unless you're going to make the John Wayne type movies, which Oliver Stone's not going to. So, yeah. So he had a lot of. I was surprised at how far back some of these scripts went. But yeah.
But yeah, eventually he gets and somewhere along the way he makes when he's in college, he gets out of college, he makes that seizure movie, and then I forget where he makes The Hand.
It's 81.
Okay. He's not proud of that. I mean, he talks about it like the producers kind of took it away from him, but I'm not sure.
Well, he also said he didn't know what he wanted to be as a director because he was a writer and he wanted a certain thing. And he was kind of intimidated with like Michael Caine and some of the actors. And he said he just didn't have it together. And then there's all kinds of problems with the special effects.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better if we don't see the hand. Like, well, that's the fucking title of the movie. And it's like, yeah, the hand's not looking good in some of the shots. And so it became, when the title of the movie, the main thing of the movie is becoming a problem. It's like, yeah, you're in trouble.
I forget. And what did he want? What script did he want? Oh fuck, I forget his name. Blade Runner guy, Ridley Scott to direct. Was that Conan the Barbarian or was that
I
like
think
Scarface?
so. I'm not sure. I know it was because he was working on Blade Runner, so it'd be between Scarface and Year of the Dragon. Scarface was 83.
Okay.
Blade Runner 80. Yeah, so yeah, it was because actually, I think Conan the Barbarian came up too because Ridley Scott passed on a bunch of stuff because he was working on Alien and Blade Runner.
Yeah, Alien 79.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the part when they're talking about that British director. They also mention him, and it's funny how he says like, "Yeah, the British are good and slick, and they can do it cheaper than us." Also, that reminds me of a thing like usually I hear this. It was in director's commentaries. I don't know if this is true, but they usually for production assistants, like usually when like you see it like portrayed in movies, like somebody calls cut. And then a production assistant's like, all right, everybody back to like 1 or whatever. And like that guy, and that guy's not the director, but he's like keeping everybody in line. I believe that's the production assistant. Like usually like at the end of a movie, like as soon as the credits roll, like their name is the first credit after the movie ends.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a little thing to like, because usually production assistants have to put up with a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, you got the actors and the directors.
Yeah.
With very fragile egos and temperaments.
So I heard like that it's almost exclusive that they hire British people for that role, because it's what they surmise is that the British accent, people are like especially Americans are more adept to take take orders from a British accent because they won't be
Oh,
offended by it.
authority. Oh, okay. Oh, it's not offensive. Like, well, this Harry Potter guy can't really mean fuck you. The guy from Brooklyn would mean it. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think the real meat of this book, though, what I got the most from was Salvador,
yeah,
because there was so much wild shit going on. I mean, just the way they were scouting this movie, and that guy he was hanging around with that the main character was based on, Richard Boyle. Like, that guy sounds like a lunatic.
yeah.
And then everyone's trying to fuck Oliver Stone's Swedish nanny, and everyone does. It sounds like. I don't know who this woman was, but she definitely seemed like quite the sex pot in this book, which was kind of weird. But yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
Definitely seemed to suck his soul out.
I do like the weird friendship between him and James Woods, because he does portray in this book like the allure of James Woods, like why he's likable, but also like why he's a complete fucking asshole.
Yeah,
which is what he's known for nowadays, for being like a big Trump supporter and everything.
well, yeah, James Woods is trolling on a whole different level.
But I love that story, even though it's like kind of cruel, where he basically talks his way into the role and kicks Martin Sheen out of it.
Yeah, because James Woods is like, yeah, you saw Martin Sheen's kind of a religious guy, right? Is that who you want playing this character, or are you making a Hollywood movie? You're making a real movie, you know? That's just, yeah, it sounds like something he would say. And then he was miserable the whole production. He talked his way into this movie, almost bailed on it, and then was miserable because he didn't want to film in Mexico because he's afraid of germs.
Yeah.
And he's just a high-strung person, I guess. But
well, because they also like, you know, when they're doing Platoon, there's like, hey, do you want to do this? He's like, fuck no. Like a year in the Philippines with you and getting dysentery again? Like, no fucking way.
yeah. I forgot that Jim Belushi was in that movie until I read this. Like, oh yeah, that's right. He was his sidekick.
Well, like, yeah, like the way Oliver Stone, like every time he talked about the movie, I just imagined Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but in the middle of a coup.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good representation of it too.
Okay.
Because he even said it was a Gonzo style movie about a photojournalist who was a real guy who really did these things, and that guy who sponged up as much liquor and whores and cocaine as he could between El Salvador and Mexico, he just died a couple years ago. He lived to be like 78. Richard Boyle, let me look up exactly when he died. 2016, he was 74. So that proves, kid. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but that was. And I like how they, when they do the thing where they have the scene cuts and it says the name of the movie. The people that were financing this movie were just moving money around.
Yeah.
So it was actually what did they say the movie was called? The Bunker or something? Because it was the funding that was attained for that movie was a Schwarzenegger movie that he backed out of, but they still had the money, so they put it in Salvador. But when they were doing the cuts and stuff, because I guess some people look at that for legal reasons, it's like, oh, this is that Bunker movie, you know, doing it with Woods. But that, you know, that the financing of this movie was so weird.
I also like how they got like they have like a different script for the Salvadorian government because they make them look like the heroes in the script so they can shoot there, and then they shoot like the bad parts in Mexico so they don't have to worry about it.
They don't have to be worried about being killed by Salvadoran, you know, government militia people. But yeah, that was an amazing. I mean, just that whole story about making that movie and everything about it was really cool. And then we get into Platoon, which is a movie most everyone's familiar with. I rewatched it actually before the podcast just to refamiliarize myself with it. It's a fairly well-known movie, and it's a good Vietnam movie. It's not my favorite because I like the weirdness of Apocalypse Now. Is like that's my favorite Vietnam movie.
Yeah,
because it it's so strange and dark and esoteric. And I also like Full Metal Jacket because that movie is also strange in a different way. Whereas this one's more like just a movie about guys at war, which, at the time it came out was pretty, it's pretty shocking. It was 1986. And I like how when he's talking about this movie, he parallels a lot of stuff going on in the Reagan administration. At the time.
Also, it's weird that I feel like the time frame seems like very different, but like Salvador and Platoon end up coming out in the same year, which just seems kind of weird. But
well, it's a whole different production cycle and process.
yeah,
I feel like Platoon was a lot more professionally made.
yeah,
not from his point of view, but from the support finance side of it, because he didn't have to have a lot of emergency meetings with crazy foreigners about where's the money coming from Switzerland to pay my actors. There wasn't a lot of that going on in Platoon, so he could concentrate more on the material and less on the the politics of making movies. But there was still some of that.
It wasn't every day the money guys were on set looking to take control of the movie.
Yeah.
Because I forget what it's called. It's like what's it called? Essentially,
your reinsurance if the movie doesn't get made, everyone gets paid.
Yeah, it was like completion insurance or whatever, where it's like the bank essentially backs the movie in a certain way, but if spending gets out of control, the bank will take control of the movie and just complete it as cheaply as possible. And it's like I think it's called like a completion bond. So basically, the bank will ensure that the movie is completed. They will not ensure the quality of it, but they will ensure that it's completed.
And the reason they will do that is because just legal triggers for how they can sue and claim loss on the movie. It becomes very different if they complete it versus uncompleted.
Yeah, so like there's those every year like a movie will get released. Is like this is a bomb. It's like why did this get made and why is it getting released now? It's like for tax purposes. It's like they're just gonna write this off. So if a movie isn't completed, then it's harder to like write it off as for tax purposes.
I don't even know how that system works now.
No, nobody does.
I think basically you can only make Marvel movies.
Well, yeah, there's that bit where like Oliver Stone is like, because he's gotten money from the Year of the Dragon and the 8 Million Ways to Die script, and he just bought like a house that's like $1 million, but he's spending like $10,000 a month on the was it mortgage? What do you call that? Yeah, mortgage, right?
Yeah, mortgage, yeah.
And then like he wants to put his money behind Salvador, but then eventually like one of his production guys is like, no, we'll find the money. You're not putting your own money up for it.
Don't put your home up over this. Yeah, I mean, I think Platoon was probably his most financially successful movie.
You think JFK probably made more?
Oh man, maybe JFK because that was like a big one. But this was the most successful one so far for what this book covers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, this really only covers like for movies he made with I mean, it covers them all, but like Salvador and Platoon are the big ones, and it ends on Platoon. So
yeah,
it kind of promises that there'll be a second book at some point, going over the rest of his career, which will be interesting. There's a lot of stuff in the '90s he did that was really good, and there's a lot of bad stuff in the 2000s that he made. So
yeah, he's had a few bombs. Yeah, he was the guy in the '90s. It started off with JFK, which I remember seeing. I was in high school when that came out.
But yeah, also it seems weird, like when Platoon is released, like he's 40 years old, which kind of just like almost just seems too old for the time. But then like you look at his career and like he was just knocking out really really good famous movies for like a 10-year stretch there, where it's like I think like Born on the 4th of July and JFK came out the same year or something like that. There's a lot of ones where he's like 2 movies came out in the same year. Which yeah. I don't necessarily associate Oliver Stone with like being that quick of a turnaround director. Like that's something I associate with like Steven Spielberg as somebody who can just turn around a move like a really big movie really quickly. But Oliver Stone can do that. So
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking him in the way like you think of Quentin Tarantino, where he's got guy. I'm gonna spend 4 years making a movie, but like, no, not really. He just kind of knocks him out.
Yeah. See, Wall Street was 87. We had Platoon and Salvador simultaneous, and Wall Street was 87. Born on the 4th of July was 89. Then JFK was 91. But JFK was a motherfucker.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear his stories about that, because I just know from watching, because I have like the double disc JFK, and there's like 9 different commentaries. And,
Yeah.
so 2 of them are all about the conspiracy stuff, and then the other ones are about production. And yeah, that movie took a long time to make and put together. And then you had Heaven and Earth, which no one remembers. I haven't seen anything about it. And then Natural Born Killers, which I remember as being like weird and like, oh, this is crazy. And then you had Nixon, which I think is a
Wait,
cool
when,
movie.
when did The Doors come out?
The Doors came out in... Where did The Doors come out? Why is that not showing up here? Doors came out in 89.
Oh yeah, so that's the same year as Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the 90s too, that's when Oliver Stone kind of started going crazy.
Yeah.
That's when he really got
Well,
into
like especially with JFK, he kind of found that new style, and then they like kind of really rode that for a while, and then he just kind of calmed down and made kind of very like not as charged movies anymore. He just kind of made movies.
Yeah,
Hey, well, he did a lot of documentary stuff too, which I think is kind of like where his quality lies now and his heart.
yeah, because he went and did a lot of interviews with
Castro.
Castro, and then he did like the Putin interviews, and then he he got sucked into the world of Edward Snowden and that world of darkness and light or whatever, a kind of strange universe. But
It's also interesting, like he talks about the response of Platoon, and like a lot of not necessarily people coming forward, but just hear stories of like how like veterans really appreciated the movie because they're like, oh, finally somebody told my story.
yeah,
And they'd just be like really quiet and reserved and just like go home and cry to themselves or whatever.
yeah, it seemed touching in a way.
Yeah.
and that was weird. And that movie really, if you follow guys like Oliver Stone and read some of the stuff he read and how he bases things on, it's like, yeah, that movie really tore the guts out of this country for a long time after it was over. There was a lot of anger.
Well, it's also that's in the middle of like the Reagan administration, which is like recategorizing the the Vietnam War as this like they're trying to make it look like like it was just like this noble attempt.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a waste of life and money for no reason.
Yeah, this was really America at its best. We didn't quite bring home the gold cup, but there was a lot of sincerity in what we were doing. And yeah, the guys like Oliver Stone are like, fuck that. That's not the Vietnam War I was in. So, but he could clearly, his point came across well.
Yeah,
But I mean, all this stuff. I mean, we'll probably talk about this more in the sequel to the this book or whatever happens. But like Oliver Stone is very much my touchstone, interestingly enough, and kind of my entree into like his interpretation of the '60s. Being I didn't live through them, is my interpretation of like all the dark stuff that he sees and everything between like JFK and Nixon and all those movies he made like that. That's just, it's kind of like Natural Born Killers was a interpretation of our kind of pop culture at the time in the 90s, which is what I got out of it, is like, oh yeah, all those other movies, it's like that's really, when I think of the 60s, I think of Oliver Stone movies, because it's like, yeah, that sort of jibes. I mean, it might be, again, there's a lot of, what's his famous term, dramatic license taken with some stuff, but essentially the ideas are like, yeah, okay, I agree with this. This is, I didn't live at that time, but I know there was a lot of darkness at that period. And there is even now, but you get it through hindsight with him. So, yeah. Chasing the light. which is also a movie making term.
Yeah, it's about like basically like it means like natural lighting for the movie. So like you have to, you know, you only have so long to actually shoot a movie if you're using natural light.
Yeah.
There's also stuff like magic hour stuff where it's like as the sun's setting, there's kind of a weird blue hue that the camera picks up that makes things look like really dreamlike and serene. But you literally just have like, even though it's called magic hour, you basically have 20 minutes to shoot a magic hour shot.
Oh, okay.
you got like 2 takes and then you're done.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting when they explained that because I thought the title "Chasing the Light" had some like deep philosophical meaning, and it does. Yeah. But it's also a movie making term. I was like, yeah, it's a beautiful choice for a title. Guy who's famous for making movies. And it's also philosophical at the same time.
It's the poetry of Oliver Stone. So.
Yeah, so pick it up, kids. It's only like 400 pages. If you're interested in Oliver Stone and his movie making and his interpretation of the world that exists then and exists now, it's not bad. If that's what you want to do.
I also like his take on things.
QAnon and internet.
Well, that's what I like about Oliver Stone stuff is that his stuff is like kind of reserved and critical. Like he's not getting over emotional with the things like it's like, hey, I think there might be a conspiracy here, but he's not like fucking putting a gun to your head. It's like, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah, he's not going full Alex Jones.
No.
Like, buy my tea and this is a conspiracy. Yeah, he's not doing that. He's not selling you tea. He's just telling you a movie.
Buy my bone meal.
Or whatever. Yeah, it's a weird shit.
Sandy Hook didn't happen. Buy the toothpaste.
Buy erection cream. I don't know. Do they sell boner cream on InfoWars?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Blue Chew doesn't have... Blue Chew isn't discerning.
Yeah.
If they sell toothpaste to stop COVID-19, I'm pretty sure they sell boner cream.
How about boner toothpaste?
You want to get your dick hard when you're trying to suck it? Boner toothpaste.
Our dental experience. All teeth are exposed bones, thus boner. Boner. Okay, so we watched a.
Okay, I hope you paid attention because I was falling asleep watching this movie, and holy fuck, I don't know one character's name. I just remember the violence that happened in the movie. I barely know the plot. It's like bad cops and like old like crime families in France.
Yeah. This is about corrupt police in I think it's Marseille. I don't know. So yeah, this has to do with corrupt police and Corsican crime families in heroin. And this is the 2-hour movie with a really... I'm going to go over the things I didn't like first.
Okay.
Really disjointed plot. There's 30 characters in it. I know who they are, but some of the guys look the same. Yes, this is set in Marseille. Some of these guys look the same, even though they're different people. Like I said, it's a disjointed plot. You don't understand who's doing what or why, and it has nothing to do with a language barrier. It's just that the story's written in a weird way. There's almost no backstory really given unless it's said, and you don't really feel that these characters, they have a kind of a loose camaraderie, but you don't feel close to any of them. And horrible shit happens in the movie to these people, but you're just kind of like, okay.
Also, in France, this was called Bronx.
Yeah, that's weird.
Which I tried to look it up, and apparently it's not like, oh, Bronx means something in the French language. No, it doesn't.
No. This is it's kind of a this is an homage to Miami Vice, is what this movie is.
Okay.
It has the look.
You take Miami Vice, you make it French and really a bummer.
Yeah.
And there's your movie.
Yeah, there's no sequel to this movie unless you just want to introduce a whole bunch of new characters. But yeah, this is a movie that is it's such a French homage, how appropriate, to Miami Vice. It's obvious. You're watching, it's like, oh, some of these guys live on a boat, Crockett and Tubbs, and they're kind of shady anti-narcotics officers that walk, they have relationships with the Corsican gangs, and also, struggled relationships with their leadership, who was also
Well, first it opens with the one guy who I completely forget who it is, who just like he murders his family.
yeah.
Or is that his family? Okay, because I didn't.
Yeah.
That is the opening scene of the movie, and it is again replayed later because it's it's Vronsky's the main cop. His last name is Vronsky, and I forget what the other guy's name is and there's a reason we don't remember their names because there's none of these characters are very relatable. They're just doing things. They're just guys doing guy stuff. And it would work great if it was just a straight up action movie, because there's great action in this movie.
Yeah.
It's hard to relate to. It's like, what does this mean that this guy's dead now? And why did this guy murder his whole family and then himself?
Does it not get to that? Does it not explain why?
Well, it does explain why,
Oh, okay.
but you're kind of like, well, why did the movie open on that? And what does it mean? And then Jean Reno's in it, and you're thinking, oh, cool. And he's in it for like a total of 8 minutes. Which is weird. He's a producer on this film too. So,
But shit, what was I gonna get that? Fuck. Oh, so after that, you got the opening, and like they're transferring like a crime boss and then like on the way they let him see his wife in the hospital, and then he smothers her to death.
yeah, she's dying of cancer, and this guy's like, yeah, and Vronsky's not even supposed to do this. This is some Corsican mob boss that's doing life in prison, and him and Vronsky have a relationship. And he asks can I see my wife before she dies? Yeah, okay, we can do that. Even though it's like completely out of step with reality, that's what you can do. And then he goes in there, and it's like she's about to die, and he grabs a pillow, and he's like, I can't let you kill her. And he's like, well, if you leave the room. Yeah, so he does, and this guy suffocates his wife who's dying of cancer, which she looked about dead too, so it was close. And then his bosses know about it.
It's like, hey, you made a stop you weren't supposed to. It's like, we got here on time. It's like, his wife died after you left the building. It's like, oh, it's all in the report.
Yeah.
It's news to me.
So
You
it's
better
like,
hope it's natural causes.
It's like they know it's happening, but yeah.
Well, also, I guess she had set up like, so that makes like, okay, these guys are iffy. You don't know if like they're bad cops or not. But also, like, the bosses, the new boss who's busting their balls, like, oh, he must be the real guy who's gonna like focus in on it, but he's also a bad guy.
Yeah, everyone's a bad guy in this movie, and like really bad guys, and none of the dialogue like hangs together and really establishes the characters at all, whether it's in French or English or whatever. It doesn't work, and the bad guys show up. And it's like, Vronsky's wife, she's pregnant and on the boat, and the bad guys show up and they threaten her like, yeah, you need to tell your husband to stay out of things. And then the one guy asks like, oh, is it a boy or a girl? And I knew immediately what he was going to say. And he was like, yeah, because if I come back, I'm going to rip that baby out of you. And then we'll both know, right? And it's like things that were supposed to be horrible like that were predictable. It's like, you almost knew what everyone was going to say before they said it in the movie, which is a real problem with the writing in this movie. It's not even good dialogue. It's just predictable. And like I said, if you like Miami Vice and you like an atmospheric, violent film, this isn't bad, but it's not great either. It's kind of a slog, and it's 2 hours, and it has a real uplifting ending. It really like takes it home for no reason. It's just like, oh, we're just going to kill everyone. Because ultimately we're corrupt too. Because it's essentially
it's like you get to the top of like the people who are supposed to be incorruptible, and they're also corrupt and murdering
they're also
people.
corrupt and murdering people. It's like, okay, that must be a French thing. I don't know. Everyone fails themselves, but it is a.
I don't know, there was an interesting thing where they had the shootout in the beginning. And there's that point where like the guy gets shot with a shotgun in his bulletproof vest, and he's just down, and then he just like takes all all his shit off and throws it in a dumpster and acts like he was one of the party goers, which is like,
Yep.
it's kind of interesting. I don't believe it, but it was interesting. Like he's just gonna like lawyer up and get out of it.
Well, the reason that was is, see, the people that shot up the bar, and this is not clear unless you read into some stuff about this. That's the Corsican mafia. Those are people from the south of France, and those people are truly nasty. Remember the movie The French Connection?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same group of people. Now, the people they shot up were people from they were Arabs and North Africans. That was the other competing heroin gang. Remember that bald black lady and the guy who showed up at the place before they shot it up?
Yeah.
That's the leader of the rival gangs. Now, I don't know this from the movie. I had to go read about what they were trying to do. So the reason he could get away with that was he was like, oh yeah, I'm just hanging out at the bar. And the only thing that triggered him is like, well, these Corsican guys would never hang around in an Arab bar. And that's why they immediately became suspicious, like, oh, something's going on with this guy. And then the first corrupt boss like kills him. And then when they do the autopsy, they find out, oh yeah, he has a massive contusion on his chest that's consistent with taking a blast from a gun to the chest through bulletproof vest. And he was actually the shooter. And then they go look in the dumpster. It's like, oh, here's his bulletproof vest and his gun. And then they have a gun that they can trace back to this family. That's why they arrest the guy at the funeral. But none of this stuff is like very clear in the movie. It's like you got to go do independent research. And again, it's not a language barrier. It's not because, oh, it's a French film and you don't get it. It's like, no, it's just not. It's written poorly. Again, I believe it is just an homage to Miami Vice. So much so that it almost falls into copying. Because I immediately picked up on that. That's the only reason I kept watching it. Because I would have banged out of this if it wasn't filmed well. And it is like, oh, what am I doing here?
Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't miss anything while I was falling asleep to watching it.
No, it's
I remember
crazy.
there seemed to be these cool action scenes, the bar shoot scene, that weird scene where the guy's naked and they're having a shootout while he's naked.
I like the naked shootout when he hides the gun under his chin and he has his hands up like, I don't have my gun. And it's because you only see him from the back and he's naked and he's been fighting for 10 minutes, which is weird. And it's like, what's he doing? What's this guy doing? And then he drops the gun from under his chin and tries to shoot the cop. That was cool. I mean, there's things stylistically that make this movie look cool.
Practically like the Navy SEAL shootout on the beach.
Yeah.
With the people smuggling the drugs in or whatever.
Yeah, everyone's an expert in just highly destructive weaponry in this movie. And that, and some of the guys, I mean, everyone had a cool look to them. All these guys looked the part. Because you had the main guy, Bronsky, and then his kind of druggy partner, and then you had the cool looking black guy with the white stripe down the middle of his goatee. I don't know how he achieved that, but it looked cool. And then you had the other guy who was just kind of similar to everyone, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, the plot and character development in this are so convoluted and forgettable. It's hard to remember this movie.
So why'd that guy kill his family?
Shit, what was the reason? Oh, because one of the gun that was used to kill the guy in the beach shootout scene, it was him. He shot the cop that got killed. It was him that he did it accidentally.
Oh, okay.
He was on drugs or whatever. And his wife was horrible to him, and he loved his kids, and he decided, well, it's all over now, so I'm just going to go shotgun my family to death and then kill myself on the patio. And it's it was almost weird and unnecessary. It had a lot of emotional impact, but again, it was kind of like, why is this the answer?
Oh no, a good person died.
Let's wipe out my...
Well, actually, yeah, innocent people died, including a dog. But then...
Yeah, I was going to say, innocent dog.
But that guy's an asshole, so who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah, but there was just a lot of... it's a forgettable movie.
Yeah.
It's one and done. I mean, watch it if stylistic.
Well, we had some success with some of our foreign action movies, and this one was not a. But also, like you said, it's shot well enough and the action's good, but everything else is not necessarily likable at all. But,
no, it's
and it's not even one of those movies where You know, it's not even like a Scorsese movie where like everything ends up bad, but in interesting ways where you like the characters. But this has none of that.
No. You don't like anyone. It's not that you don't like anyone because they're shitty characters or they're bad people, which they are. But I mean, not, you know, they're corrupt people and involved in a lot of corrupt things. You don't know any of these people. It's like, well, it's horrifying that guy killed his whole family, but what do I know about him besides he's a drunk? It's a little out of control. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, it's not like this guy, you know, like this is a good guy. He just has some problems he needs to get over, or he's a fun person, but like, you know, he just has all these demons.
Yeah, no,
They just
none
all
of
kind
that.
of seem like, they just all kind of seem like gruff, miserable people that continue to live for, I don't know, just themselves, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, they seem to have plans, and they want to, you know, steal a bunch of drug money, to take those boats off into the sunset. And I guess like the moral of the story is that never happens. But it's also kind of like the only people you're partially invested in this story, they all just die. And it's like, okay, the end. Oh, the government of France is completely corrupt. The higher you go, the more corrupt it is. Which
Okay.
might be. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
Well,
You have anything? I don't know. You seem to not have the same feelings about it. But.
No, I just thought the action scenes were done pretty well, but otherwise, yeah, it was a pretty shitty movie. It was pretty forgettable. The plot was horrible. The characters were annoying and non-existent. Like it.
Boss,
just
you
didn't-
said the dub made it even more terrible.
Yeah, the dub was shitty. I don't think they put a lot of effort into this movie because I feel like somebody just like made. Because I don't even know if this director did other things before that was well received. I didn't look him up to see what he'd done. But I mean, like, literally, it didn't seem like he put a lot of effort into this, or so whoever wrote it didn't either.
Well, I think there's
Well,
effort there. I just like I don't know. You know, we're not the audience. Well, actually, we're kind of the audience for this, but it just kind of missed.
Yeah, the problem with this movie was the script. It had all the components of success, except the story was just not. And it wasn't even the script; it was just script construction. Like how you're supposed to keep track of all these things, and while they're going on in this movie is it's very difficult.
Yeah, because it's a pretty long movie, so it doesn't necessarily feel like things were cut from the movie, but it also
No.
still feels like it needs more.
Well, it needs to shorten the amount of characters in the movie because there's way too many things going on, not enough time paying attention to anyone. Even the main character is not fleshed out very well. I mean, yeah, like I said before, Conlon, before Nathan got on, like apparently the French people don't do a very good job with these type of movies, and this is the better version of their shitty attempts at these. But if this is the better version, I don't want to know what the crappy versions are.
I don't know. We watched La Samurai. That was a pretty good crime French movie.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one. Either way, I mean,
But that was like in the 60s, so yeah.
Oh yeah, that's not no. But at the same time, it's just I don't, like I said before too. Like I don't really like these type of movies necessarily, but if it's well done enough, it is intriguing and it's something. It's not you don't see things coming a mile away like Nathan was. I mean, it's just. But then again, I've seen
I
enough
don't know, but,
movies
like,
now.
I don't know. Also, like Lost Bolt was like a gritty bad cop movie, but that movie was cool.
Well, the director of this movie, I'm going to assume it's Olivier Marchal, is a French director with a pretty good body of work, but he also is a former policeman.
Oh, okay.
So he so he kind of has that background. I don't know how long he was a policeman.
Well, this obviously seems to be not positive about his experience.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's he's working off a script too.
Oh, he didn't write it. Okay.
No, doesn't look like it. I'm trying to find a movie he's done that we might have seen, or even had access. I mean, it's all French movies, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, he seems to have had a body of work behind him, and it's basically gritty movies, gritty cop films set in the south of France.
Okay.
So, and I know that's a particularly crazy part of France. Yeah, I don't know why this was called the Bronx. I could never find the reason behind that, so I'm guessing that it was because, they just like, oh, it's a rough part of New York.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know if it is anymore. It's probably all the houses are like worth $10 million.
I think the Bronx is on Long Island. It's like the first thing off the bridge.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about New York. The only thing I know about New York is what the comedians who live there tell me.
Because like what you think of New York is, obviously not the upper state. You just think of New York City. But also like New York City is like when you think of New York City, you think of Manhattan, which really isn't. Like Manhattan's very small, but if you look at Long Island, like Long Island is like fucking 50 times the size of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people that like are considered from New York City like live on Long Island, but so I believe the Bronx is there or some others, but like in Manhattan, I think you have the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side. I believe you have Brooklyn, or maybe I'm getting that wrong.
They're called like the
5 boroughs.
5 boroughs or something. Yeah,
because Harlem's in there, and Spanish Harlem's the unofficial one.
You were born outside of there, so you should know, right? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, because Manhattan is connected to the Bronx, and then you got Staten Island is separate, and then Brooklyn, Queens. Oh, this works, but those are the 5 boroughs.
Okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just.
Well, we're trying to figure out like why is this movie called The Bronx, and it's purely like crime, the American Crime Association. So I'm guessing when French people hear the Bronx, they just associate with American crime.
But the film he was shooting an homage to, he could have called this Miami. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't do the marketing.
Or maybe they just thought Bronx was a cool word, which it is. And
it is. Let's look up the meaning of that. Although instead of being a part, what does the word Bronx mean?
Well, I was playing the other weird one I remember is I was playing that game Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which takes place in Egypt, and that's where I found out that Philadelphia is actually an Egyptian name.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh yeah.
Because like I was looking at the map and there's like it has the names of the areas and it's like Philadelphia is like what? But spelled differently. It's like PHY or whatever or something.
Yeah. Let's see. Bronx definitions. All known. The borough of New York City, north of Manhattan. A cocktail gin of sweet and dry vermouth and orange juice. Okay. So this must have been a way to associate it. Because I know at one time that was like a tough area. Probably because he liked Scorsese and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but yeah, if you got 2 hours and nothing to do, nothing. If it's this or pulling your toenails out with pliers, you might want to do this instead. All right, folks, that's all I have. Did you guys have anything else?
Oh, I read the last of the Witcher series.
Oh, what did you think of that?
Well, it was disappointing because I didn't know I read the book slightly out of order.
Uh-oh.
Well, it'll be okay because the last of the actual series was printed in 1999.
Okay.
And the newest book was printed in 2013. But it's really the 3rd book in the series instead of the 8th book in the series. So I thought I was reading a continuation of the last book, but instead it was going back to almost the beginning of the story again. And it was still interesting and all, but at the same time it was like, oh, okay, I kind of know how it ends and how everybody ends up, so this doesn't feel as exciting and good as it should be. But it's kind of hollow, but it's still a good story. But I kind of wish like the guy had written his fucking shit in order or put it out in order. Because apparently the Witcher series might not be done. He might want to come out with another book at some point. Who knows if it'll be more shit that, continuity-wise not supposed to be at the end.
Well, I mean, like all the games take place after all the books. because he didn't want their canon to be associated with his.
Oh,
Because he was like, hell yeah, I'll sell my rights for money because there's no way this video game's gonna be anything. And then it ends up being the biggest thing in the world.
Biggest video game out of Poland. Was that developed in Poland?
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was.
CD Projekt Red.
But yeah, the ending of the book and some of the stuff in it, it's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to be in the show. It's too inappropriate for television. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to spoil it. So, I mean, if you guys want to read the rest of the series, it is a really good series and a really good character. And Geralt and Yennefer, Ciri, they're all well-developed characters. I don't understand why Triss Marigold's so developed as a love interest in the video game, because basically in the book it's like, oh, we fucked a couple times, but that doesn't really mean anything. Like nothing ever happens ever again besides Yennefer just being mad at her because she fucked Geralt or whatever. So I don't understand it, but Geralt also seems to like basically fuck the shit out of sorcerers and basically like, oh, just pretend it's Yennefer all the time. so I don't know. It's just there's one part in the last book, which technically is the third book, where he's trying to figure out, because you're talking about demons being summoned in the world and massacring woodcutting villages, and he's paid to find out why by a mage temple, and then so he finds the reason, and it's a guy that's an apprentice of the head mage or whatever, and he's like, well, sometimes you have to have gay sex with him and do stuff for him, because you want to advance up the ladder. I don't like doing it, but I do it to help my career. And it's like, but mages do this kind of thing because they're bored. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen such an explained definition for why you're having sex with this man to get ahead. So it's just kind of weird, but also funny at the same time. And there's just a lot of good fucking parts in those books. But I don't think the TV series already isn't going where the books are anyway, because like Battle of Sodden doesn't take place at the same time at all. In the books, it's like literally like 100 years before the books have taken place, because they beat down Nilfgaard, and then Nilfgaard comes back with a vengeance and like beats shit out of them again. So I don't know where the show's going. Supposedly like they have certain monsters and things they want to include in the second season, and I have it supposedly like Cohen and other Witchers supposed to show up too, and he's supposed to take Ciri to Kaer Morhen, which is kind of like the third or fourth book.
Oh,
so
there's still other Witchers.
Yeah, there's still other Witchers. Vesemir doesn't even appear in anything besides the third book. So, I mean, I was kind of disappointed that he didn't show up more. Cohen shows up to die, but other than that, like, not even really, because he just mentioned, like, oh, yeah, you got a pitchfork in the heart. You survived that long. And so, yeah, there's a lot of disappointing parts. Dandelion's really fucking annoying most of the time. And, yeah, it's an interesting book series. It's definitely worth reading. And it has a lot of good twists and turns to it. And it's definitely something I'd recommend if you guys want to continue reading it.
Yeah, I'm still listening to the second short story book, and then I got like the first book, as far as I know. So, because they're having a fire sale, and it was like $5 for each book.
Okay.
Up to a point. It wasn't every book. It was like 3 of them.
So if you want to continue the series in order, read Seasons of Storm, the last book next. Otherwise, you'll be out of order and won't really complete the story after the 7th book. Like I said, don't know why he did it that way. He can do whatever way he wants to. He's the one writing it, but I don't know. I haven't checked out his other series because I guess he has other ones that people kind of like, but they're not as good as The Witcher is. So,
are they more like fantasy stuff, or are they other
yeah,
things?
Fantasy, like a battle mage that fights demons that are suddenly thrust upon his world or whatever. So it's kind of like more monster hunting stuff, but not exactly the same. So he seems like he's kind of stuck on that one note, but I didn't really read reviews for those because it's like, well, I'm really pissed with how he ended the book, so I'm not really going to pick up other stuff he's written. So I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I don't think the TV show is going to follow the same arc. It's pretty incestuous. I mean, so anyway, that was my last
might
one.
not go down that hole, huh?
Well, I mean, Game of Thrones kind of did, but it's HBO, but this is Netflix. I don't know if they're going to want to follow that same rabbit. I don't
Follow
know.
the rabbit down the incest hole.
That sounds like a name for a great new podcast. Hi, welcome to the incest hole.
Everything incest in this hole. Let's do this. No, it's I guess I wouldn't say it's like horribly disturbing, but it's just kind of like, well, that's not the way I thought that was going to shake out. So,
The Witcher is a pretty dark universe, so.
oh yeah, it is. It definitely is, and I really enjoyed the books. I just kind of wish that I'd read them in the correct order. Especially when there's a 14-year publishing gap between. It's like, geez, because he turned out a book every year until the series was done, and then he waited 14 years to do the third book. It's like, okay, I don't know what he was doing, I guess, but
He just wants to out George R.R. Martin. It's like, how much time can we put in between books?
well, because I don't know, because it doesn't sound like anybody was even expecting another one. Not that they didn't like it, but I mean, if it was finished by even before 2000, then it's like, well, was anybody really with bated breath waiting for this next book in 2013? Because George R.R. Martin supposedly is making progress, but I don't know what the fuck that means in relative terms to his writing process.
Well, when did the Song of Ice and Fire first came out? That came out like 91 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember reading it at the end. I think it was like 94.
Oh, okay.
So I read it right after high school. I remember I read that first one. I was like, whoa, shit, this guy's going to get in trouble. This can't be, how would you say it? Yeah, this can't be good. But it actually was. And I enjoyed it. And then I waited, they used to come out fairly regularly, and then we started getting these big gaps. That's why it sort of fell off my radar, because it's like, wow, you can't have this going on for 15 years.
Well, I mean, you can tell by the fact that he said the TV show ended exactly how he was going to end his books. He doesn't know how to fucking end his book.
Yeah.
Well,
That's hard.
If I end my book, then there's no more money.
But he'll still get paid to put his name on stuff he's not involved in, right? I mean, these sci-fi shows and other.
Well, that's why he sued CD Projekt Red, because he just took like a lump sum, and then they just had rights to make video games, and all they had to do was take place after the timeline of his books. And then he sued him later on because they made $1 billion off The Witcher, and he didn't.
$1,000. Yeah.
Well, he read the contract and he agreed to it. So I mean, he didn't think he was going to be successful. So fuck him.
I think they ended up giving him some money because they just had so much, but it was I think it's something like some Polish law allowed it, where it's basically if you make that much money off of something, then it's considered I don't know, in bad taste that that's all you paid that person.
Yeah, I mean, I know in America with entertainment law, you can just pretty much go back to the well several times.
Well, because I know that crap. What was I going to say?
Because
they definitely just paid him something for the rights to that too, didn't
Oh
they?
yeah, he got because he's listed as a producer on that show, so he got hell of money for that. But yeah, there's they were calling that dude a sore sport for The Witcher, because the other guy was the Metro guy. He's been pretty happy with what they've done with the video games. I'm not sure if the story wise, but all that video game has done is pointed more people towards his book, and he's just made more money because of it. Even if he didn't make a ton of money off the video games, he still makes money because of it.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know how much the Witcher book series picked up with sales after the video game came out.
Oh, probably a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't even know when the first book was translated.
Supposedly 1994.
Okay, so when was it first written?
I just had the timeline the other day.
That's all right. It's okay. We don't have to worry about it.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was in the 80s because he's born in 1945 in Poland. So I mean, he probably had, because it sounds like he's been working on shit for a long time.
Yeah,
So 1992 was the first publication of actually Sword of Destiny came out before Last Wish. That's weird.
Hmm.
So okay, I guess he's had continuity problems before. But yeah,
Well, I know there's weird things where like they've translated different books first and they came here, so that's why orders get screwed up. And there's like different teams on the short story. There's like the short story crew, and then there's like the novel crew, and they're different. That does the translations. But, anyways,
All right. Well, that's all I have. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
this is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.